Hey guys, it's Phil with the Minuteman Moment, and the Senate filibuster is without question one of the most important tools we have to stop gun control from moving through Congress and becoming law. But what is the filibuster? Well, it's a rule that says the Senate needs 3/5, or in this case, 60 senators in order to move the process along to pass a bill in the Senate. And maybe someday I'll get into why the Senate is gridlocked, but I can assure you it's not because of the filibuster. The filibuster's there and has been there for decades, and the Senate has been able to move legislation. The purpose of the filibuster is to force consensus and just get people to work together. So with the filibuster in place, it's much harder for legislation to pass that doesn't have broad appeal. And that brings us to the problem we're facing today. This past December, Senate Democrats struck a deal with Senator Mitch McConnell and GOP leadership to get around the filibuster just this once. We sent you an alert telling you to take action on that. And once that deal was struck and the filibuster for this one-time exception was no longer a roadblock, the dam broke. And Congress rushed through a deal to raise the debt limit. So what does a one-time filibuster exception on the debt limit have to do with preserving our Second Amendment rights? Well, like I just said, the filibuster is there not to stop legislation from passing, but to force consensus on any legislation that senators want to pass. The Senate is not designed to be a majority rule body. That's why we have the House of Representatives, and they're great at working as a majority rule body. But the Senate filibuster is one of the best tools we have to keep gun control from passing right now. Without the filibuster, anti-gun Democrats would be able to pass gun control and much more with a mere 51 votes in the Senate. And they'd be able to do all kinds of stuff, like gun bans and registration, including universal background checks. What about overriding state election laws to allow for greater voter fraud? What about packing the courts so that new judges will just approve Biden's gun control agenda? This is why the anti-gun Democrats want to destroy the filibuster. And they're using a debt ceiling crisis as the foot in the door to weaken the filibuster. Remember, never let a good crisis go to waste. And this is how the so-called one-time exception for the filibuster on the debt ceiling relates to the fight for the Second Amendment. This compromise over the debt ceiling allowed the Democrats to raise the debt ceiling with a simple majority. But there's no such thing as a one-time exception, not really. Once they've gotten a taste for the abuse of power, it's only a matter of time until they push for a little more. And if anyone doesn't believe me, right now, they're trying to make another one-time exception for a partisan voting rights bill. And while I'm at it, the Senate does actually have procedures in place to change the rules in a way that's fair to everybody. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats weren't the only bad actors here. There are plenty of Republicans that actually allowed the Democrats to have this one-time exception. GOP senators don't want to vote to raise the debt ceiling. The way they look at it, it's bad politics. Just blame everything on the Democrats. But they want to raise the debt ceiling so they don't have to deal with it. And just to pull the curtain back a little bit, let's face it, the GOP donors, they want this. The Dem donors, they want this. They all want the debt limit raised. And at the end of the day, their money talks. Does yours? So some of the Republicans affirmatively voted with the Democrats to allow them to clear a procedural hurdle so the Democrats could vote on a 50-vote threshold to raise the debt limit without any Republicans having to actually vote to raise the debt limit. Let me explain that. Think of it this way. In order to open the door, you need a key from a Republican and a Democrat. So they both affirmatively put their keys in the door and unlock it. But only a Democrat walks through that door, so a Republican can say they never crossed that threshold. That's basically what this process was like. And hopefully that example gives you a sense of what I mean by the Republicans helping the Democrats clear a procedural hurdle without actually voting to raise the debt limit. This is typical swamp-like behavior. It happens all the time and so much more than you know. But keep in mind that Gun Owners of America is not here to lobby for or against raising the debt ceiling. But to understand why gun owners need to be involved, all you have to do is imagine a future scenario where the words debt ceiling crisis are replaced with the words gun control crisis. Anti-gunners are always just calling on the Senate to do something. Without a filibuster to protect us, a GOP senator could not lift a finger to try and stop gun control, vote against it, let it pass the Senate at 50, and then turn around and tell you, hey, I'm pro-gun. I never voted for gun control. It was the Democrats who passed this bill. So that's a lie, but it's a lie that worked the first time with the debt ceiling. So why shouldn't they just try it again for gun control? Something I hit on consistently on this channel is that politicians will go after the easy targets. Getting rid of the filibuster makes gun rights an easy target for anti-gunners. And without the filibuster, it also makes it harder for members of Congress to protect our gun rights. Don't let the swamp fool you, and thanks for taking action.